So, it's been a while since I've done a discussion video on this channel, and I was intending to do a discussion video like this in the past, but a lot of things came up, and so I just never got to it. But what sparked me to start this discussion video now is, well, it's two videos that I've seen from Lotus Asakura. One was from like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, and the other was like maybe like a couple days ago. From today, it was a couple of days ago. But the videos that I am mentioning here are Anime Games Need to Do Better and The Death of Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, most of this discussion video is going to be focusing on the first video because that's what really sparked this discussion in the first place. And the second video I'm going to address at the end, but I do warn you, I do have some hot takes, if you can call it that, about because obviously the second video is called The Death of Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I guess I never really shared my opinion of Dragon Ball FighterZ, I guess, in a more open sense. Like I've always discussed Dragon Ball FighterZ with my friends. I've discussed my opinions on it, and so let's just get some of the points I want to get to out of the way first. So, the first point I want to get out of the way as soon as possible. When you think anime games, a lot of people do tend to gravitate towards arena fighters, especially when you hear the phrase anime games need to do better. However, arena fighters aren't just the main things that this phrase applies to. Like, we've had games in the past that weren't just arena fighters. Alright, we've had Shinobi Strikers, we've had Black Clover Quartet Knights, we've had the Tokyo Ghoul game that I forgot the name of, we have DBZ Kakarot, we have One Piece Odyssey. Like, we've had a lot of games that have came out that weren't just arena fighters. But when those games did come out, a lot of criticism was also warranted to those games being either mediocre or just straight up bad. So, when you really think about anime games need to do better, anime games as a whole need to do better. It's not just the arena fighters, because we've had games that have come out that weren't arena fighters. And this kind of slides into the next point. The concepts for these games are unique. However, they fail at execution. And this is especially true for the new arena fighter that came out, which was JJK Cursed Clash. A lot of people, when they started playing the game, had things to say. Not very positive things to say. Alright, now, I haven't bought JJK Cursed Clash. However, like, graphically, I think the game looks great. However, it's animation-wise where it really falls off for me. Alright, some of the animations don't look as good, and some that do, it's like, that's probably like the best that they could afford to do. And there's one very critical part about the game as well. It feels bad to play. And this is what I'm talking about when they fail at the execution. If a game feels bad to play, that's not a good thing, obviously. So, like, obviously these games, they have unique concepts. Like, JJK is a unique concept for a 4-player 2v2 arena game, and it kind of does fit for the setting of JJK, but they fail at the execution, primarily the game feel. And obviously there are discussions about the netcode, but I don't want to get into that because, is it good, is it not? That's not for me to decide. That's for the people who have played the game to decide. So let's just leave it at that. This next point could really spawn a whole video in and of itself. Are arena fighters bad? Obviously, you're going to have people who are going to say they're bad, and that's just it. They're bad regardless of the actual quality of the game, regardless of how it looks. But then you do have people who do defend arena fighters, being like, hey, we do have good arena fighters. So where I fall into this, are arena fighters bad discussion, I can acknowledge that we have good arena fighters and that we also have bad arena fighters. But are arena fighters bad as a genre in its entirety? Not really. Okay, not really. Here is a funny observation. An arena fighter, or say in the vein of Dragon Ball FighterZ, a traditional fighting game, doesn't mean it's guaranteed to succeed. Alright, if I was to show you like a random obscure anime that only had like one season, and we announced that we were making a game for it, but it's an anime that you don't know all that well, and it has characters that kind of look cool, but you also don't care about them at all, would that game being a arena fighter mean it's going to succeed? No. Would a game being a traditional fighting game, a full-scale traditional fighting game, would that mean the game is going to be good? No. Like, a good game is a good game regardless of what genre it is. Like, I remember seeing a lot of people say, like, well, I don't like Demon Slayer, the Hinokami Chronicle. And that's fair. Alright, that's their opinion. But I would also say to them, like, well, I don't like DNF Duel. Alright? One's an arena fighter, the other is a traditional fighting game. But rather which game is good is not about like the genre of the game. It has to do with the game itself. Alright, both games have their fair share of problems. So if you were to ask me personally, I don't think arena fighters are bad. I do think there are bad arena fighters, but I don't think the genre in itself is bad. Alright, now on to the final point, and this is where I'm probably going to lose some people here. Now, this is addressing the second video, which was the death of Dragon Ball FighterZ. Alright, my opinion on Dragon Ball FighterZ. Out of all of the Dragon Ball games I've played, which was the Budokai series, the Tenkaichi series, Raging Blast, Burst Limit, the Xenoverse games, Dragon Ball FighterZ is probably my least favorite. Heresy! Only because the only way for me to enjoy this game is to play it online. And the online sucks. Alright? For me, I do not have a local scene in my area. I do not have people offline to play Dragon Ball FighterZ with. And so when you take into consideration that the netcode for the game still sucks, and it sucked for years, and there's not a lot of offline content to keep me engaged with the game, at a certain point you gotta be like, how else am I supposed to enjoy this game? Like, there's nothing to really enjoy about it. So I went back to Xenoverse 2. I literally went right back to playing Xenoverse 2, mostly because I just did not want to play this game online. And I guess there's also that talk about FighterZ support versus Xenoverse 2 support. Obviously, like, Xenoverse 2 has had DLC for years, and it's still getting updated to this day. And like that also leads into the discussion of like the popularity of Dragon Ball FighterZ versus like Xenoverse 2. And like a lot of people will point to the popularity of Dragon Ball FighterZ through like its sales. Like it sold faster than Xenoverse 2 did. Alright? It sold just as many copies as Xenoverse 2 in less amount of time. However, I would argue that is mostly financial success. But another way to judge popularity is by the player base. And I can probably tell you, and this could be easily debatable, I would argue only in like a few brief moments in like Dragon Ball FighterZ life has it ever eclipsed Xenoverse 2's player base. However, after it settled down, after the honeymoon phase settled down, Xenoverse 2 is still going to have a larger player base at the end of the day. just because of how much content is in the game. Dragon Ball FighterZ is a quality game versus Xenoverse 2, which is a content-rich game. And when you compare the both side by side, even though Dragon Ball FighterZ has its qualities, a lot of its qualities are held back, for me at least, due to the online experience. Like, it's just not great. It's just not a great online experience. But when you pivot over to Xenoverse 2, which is a content-rich game, obviously there's going to be more things to do in Xenoverse 2 that aren't just fighting one other person. Alright? Xenoverse 2 has so much to do in it. You can honestly just play that and you would still be happy. And obviously, when you weigh those two support wise, the content rich game is obviously going to have more people playing it at the end of the day. But obviously, a lot of these are my opinion. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about anime games. Are they good? Are they bad? You know, what's your opinion on the state of them right now? Do you agree with what I said about Dragon Ball FighterZ? You know, but I'll see you guys in the next discussion video. Take care.